Welcome to Nintendo Ninja News. I'm your host, Chris Tysis, and we're here with the NNN show talking about should you buy the Nintendo Switch OLED model. I think it's called OLED model. Pretty much what they call it. And my answer is sort of, kind of, no, is probably the answer. Now, first off, I'm going to say, I'm actually not going to get this. When I first saw it and I saw the cute, the very cute looking dock and the bigger screen, I was a bit, I kind of got a bit fanboyish and I went, oh, I've got to get it. It's new and shiny and I don't have it and all that sort of stuff. But unfortunately, it's pretty much the same as this guy. There's only a few differences. But it depends on your scenario, and we'll go through them about if you should get the Switch model in particular. So, if you're a Switch Lite owner and you play mostly for, handheld only, you might be enticed by the Switch OLED model for the OLED screen, which is a much better quality than LED screen types that is on the normal Switch. The problem is, I think the cost will probably get to some people. They paid a pretty, like here in Australia, it's like $299, $330. This thing is $540 to play a little handheld console, and I think for some people they're just not going to buy it at that price. And I totally understand where they're coming from. So it's a bit of a hard drive unless you trade in your Switch Lite and, cut it down by $150 probably dollars you get back. If you do a trade in at EB Games or GameStop or whatever store does that type of thing with trading in stuff. So I say it would only be good for Switch Lite users to use that screen, and plus you get the TV thing. So for those who bought the Lite and grew to love the Switch and want to do more and get a TV input, that's probably the pathway that I would go. If you don't want to spend that money, probably don't, I would say. Sorry, Nintendo, but come on. There's a lot of money in this pandemic era. Now, if you're a normal Switch owner, like myself, with this, minus the Joy-Cons because they never work. I've got a record amount of ones that I just got rid of because they don't work. I can't really suggest you to actually run off and buy the new model because the only difference is, for streamers, you have your LAN cable connection, which is great. Should have been in there for the original Switch model. Probably should have been there like 3 console generations ago for Nintendo. As you know, they're pretty slow at stuff like this. They're still understanding the concept of the internet. They've worked out there's something called a LAN cable slot that you can put into your consoles. Yes, it has a big screen. Yes, it has a better stand. But most of these upgrades feel like it's for Switch Lite users. If you're a normal one, like myself, I can't recommend you to buy it because the differences is not going to be much unless you play in handheld as much as the TV mode. So if you do that, it's 50-50, then you might think about getting a better screen if you're out and about, especially if you're out, in the bright sun. Those LED screens might work out better for you, maybe better viewing angles and stuff like that. But personally, I probably won't get it until sometime next year because there's nothing really much of an upgrade. I mostly use it for streaming. It's in the dock. My modem is in another room, and the LAN cable's going to be, going through room to room, which I don't want. So I think if you're a normal Switch user, it's not worth it. And I would say, no buy. Don't buy. Not worth it. Especially at $540 here in Australia, and $350 in America. It's quite expensive. I know a lot of the hardcore Nintendo fans will run out and buy it because you just, put a Nintendo logo on it. They'll pretty much go out and buy it. So, but The third category of people are people who don't own a Switch, the ones who are not part of the 85 to probably approaching the 90 million mark of people that's bought a Switch Lite and a normal Switch model. If you want the best Switch experience for both handheld and TV, then you would probably get the Switch OLED model. If you don't care much about money, it's really about a $50, $60, $70 difference here in Australia. You get a bit more storage, you get some better handheld audio, and the better stand, which is much better than that. See, it absolutely... Oh, shit. See the problem? See? Moving on. So, if you want, something that isn't like that, go get the OLED model. If you just want to do handheld, then I would stick with the Switch Lite. So if you're not a Switch owner, I would suggest you just going out and get the best model or the lowest one. And that's the interesting thing with a lot of products out there. A lot of people a lot of companies just offer an expensive choice and a cheaper one. Because what happens if you put in a third model, like, 3 versions of a product, like let's just say an iPhone normal and a Lite and a Pro. Normally people don't like getting the middle one because they feel like it's not as cheap as a lighter version, but it doesn't have any of the great features of the Pro. So it's sort of like the middle child sort of gets ignored. So people want either the best console or a really cheap version of the console. So that's where it is. So basically, in a nutshell, should you get the Nintendo Switch OLED model? And I would personally, I wouldn't buy it because I don't think it's worth the upgrade. But if you are looking for a nice handheld upgrade from the Switch Lite, I would suggest getting the expensive model. If you fall in love with the Switch and you're buying lots of games and you really love that handheld experience, that's great. But if you mostly use it for TV, don't buy it. It's a waste of time. It will be much cheaper for you to actually buy that better dock that they only sell at the Nintendo store. Don't blame me. Just because you're idiots. They couldn't sell it in EB Games or some other, retail store here in Australia. Yeah, that's basically it. So, yeah, for me, at first I liked the look of the console, and we were thinking about getting it for the channel while I try to fix this. It's totally fixable. But the more I thought about it, the more I looked at the cost and the price, and it's like, shit, I could buy a PS5 with that money. That's a bit of an issue too for the Switch. If they make a model too expensive, they might be got that cash in their hand and they look at the Switch OLED model and then look at a PS5, which is only maybe, here in Australia, it's only $50 more for the digital edition. People might be thinking, well, might just get a PS5. It's a new generation. It's a newer generation than the Switch. Better graphics. Yeah, it's not handheld, doesn't have Nintendo games. But, it's a newer, better console. And that might be a bit of a tricky thing for Nintendo to navigate. So, that's pretty much it. So, yes, overall, I don't think the OLED model is a run-out and must-buy console model. And, if you got this, stick with it. It'll serve your purpose unless it breaks, and then you should just go out and get the newest model. But yeah, I've rambled on for too long. The Nintendo Switch OLED model will be out on October 8th, which is the same day as Metroid Dread. I won't be reviewing it because I don't see much of a point in buying it. But I would like to have it. Be nice. Looks very, very pretty nice. I like the white version. Love the dock. Everything about the look of it. But, in these trying times, we just don't have the budget. I don't think it's just too pricey for what it's offering. So, that's it for me. I'll see you next time.